Jam fam. We're back with another edition of Jam Talk, and we're about to get to a higher level. Not every day do we get to jam at a higher level, but we have an amazing guest with us. It goes without introduction. This man needs no introduction. He's killing the game. He's really pushing us to think better, think smarter, become a better version of ourselves. But without further ado, Jam family, 19 Keys.
Pleasure to be here, my good brother.
Pleasure's all mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for coming out to the Bronx. Um, the Bronx is really important to us in urban education. People don't know the Bronx is an unforgotten borough in New York City. And where you're sitting right now, this is Community School District 12. It's the lowest performing district in New York City. Mm-hmm. So this is synonymous to a desert. But it's important to us because we think if things can grow in the desert, it can grow anywhere. So it's really important that we have you here because you're all about growth and knowledge. And the first thing I want to throw at you and get your take on is, as we speak in our community as urban educators, what do you see out there as the biggest challenge or threat to educating Black and brown young people in our schools today?
Distractions. Anytime there's something important that goes on in the world that they don't want people to pay attention to, they create a distraction that doesn't matter, that gets people emotionally riled up, right? It's the crowd mind. In the crowd mind psychology, they equate it to a woman or a child because a child's mind is going to be more emotional, right? And so is a woman is more in tune with her emotions. But when people are in connection to a collective consciousness, they become crowd-minded as well, right? Like if you see a crowd of protesters or activists or rioters, right? People are swayed emotionally. When you're speaking to a large crowd, you're not sitting there teaching from a logical standpoint, right? You're tapping into the emotional chords. Black people by nature are spiritual and emotional, right? We love music because of that reason, right? But they know how to get us entrapped into entertainment, into lower frequency things and keep us distracted, right? Not only we're distracted, but we're so busy, we don't have time to think, right? So now you're stuck in survival mode. Every single day you have to go work. You're not really raising your child, right? Your child is being raised by society. So when do you have time to spend that quality time developing your mind, right? When do you have time to be learning these high level things, right? Whether the information is there, whether the technology is there, if the time isn't there, it doesn't matter, right? So it's the goal is to keep you busy and to keep you so distracted that you don't actually spend any time on self-development. You don't spend any time really building. You don't spend any time thinking about the future, right? So the most dangerous thing for us today, for a Black man or a woman or for society, period, is to find focus. Can you focus on something for a long period of time, right? And can you concentrate passion into that to bring a change into reality? But we can't even get focused for more than a week or two on a subject, right? Something happens and then we're on to the next thing. We can't be can we focus for a summer? We used to do boycotts to where people would be boycotting the bus line for 100 plus days. You think people can do that today? Right? So change, happens when people can concentrate, right? But if we have a society to where because we're drinking so much concentrated foods and sugars and our diet is bad and our information diet is bad, what we intake, right? The people around us, we're constantly bonding through trauma. There's another problem that's gossipy on social media. There's another celebrity life detail that we don't need to know that we're arguing about. There's another gender war topic of conversation. There's more inflation. There's wars, wars, wars. So for me, it's about finding focus, right, in the era of distraction.
Wow. And I was just thinking about, as you were talking, the amount of distraction that an adult has.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's probably multiplied in a child, especially as you're talking about society is raising our children and technology is raising them in a lot of ways. And our kids are less focused than ever. So I appreciate that. As we talk to urban educators or principals specifically, moving schools forward, what should principals be thinking about to focus on?
So you talked about being in a desert, right? And there's so many different deserts. There's broadband deserts, financial literacy deserts, food deserts, right? Wealth deserts. We have so many of those. And I believe that as a principal, you have a different job than the teacher, right? But it's all in collaboration. That principal is the boss to manage the teacher's mind so that the teachers have the ability to foster the ideas in those children and those ideas take root, right? And, it changes the environment, the reality. But the principal job is to make sure that the quality of life of the teachers, right, is high so that they can go in the classroom restored every day, replenished, right? So they not over consuming their problems and issues on a daily. Is to make sure that the teachers have a great sense of well-being and time management and focus so that when they go in the classroom, they're at a high level, right? I believe that if the principal really focuses on the teacher even more, right? Then of course the teacher can now focus on the student more. It's a trickle down effect. In wealth, you have the three stages, right? Poor people focus on, gaining money by, work and time, right? So how much time that I can spend working, how much money I get equivalent to the work done during that time. So when you want more money, you need to work harder, right? So you get multiple jobs, right? Which doesn't ever get you to wealth. So there's a ceiling. You only have 24 hours in a day. You can only work so hard, and a person is only going to pay you so much for that work. So that no matter what you do, you're not going past a certain ceiling. The second layer, the middle class, is more so thinking about ideas, generating ideas. You come up with an idea that becomes a business, right? Then you get the workers to work for you. And the more time they put in working for you, the more that idea gets to grow, right? So when you want more money, I need more ideas, man. I just need what's another way I can get some money? Then the higher level, right, is people that think about creating systems, right? They generate some sort of system to where they can utilize the people with ideas, right, and the workers. So let's say, Apple has a system. You know what I mean? They have the iOS, right, to where people can put apps in the App Store. So somebody generates an idea. I got an idea for this app, right? They go hire a worker, create the idea. They make money off that, right? But
Okay.
Apple gets to take a point every time somebody has an idea, and every time somebody works for that person to have an
Right.
idea. So they're getting paid. The manager, the principal is supposed to be the person that creates the system, right? So that the teacher, right, on that second stage, can generate the ideas and the students can do the work, right? It's a tier system. So for me, it's looking at what is the quality and the well-being of the teachers, right? Sometimes you can't increase wages because you have a budget issue, but there's ways that you may be able to increase the mental and spiritual well-being of those teachers to have a greater quality of life. So I think that therapy and quality of life and well-being and figuring out how to help manage those teachers better creates this trickle effect for the students.
Great. Wow. Thank you. As you were talking, first, I've never had someone equate the principal, teacher, and student in a business in a
Yes,
business
sir.
sense, which is it was just a lot of synergy there. So I appreciate that. As you were talking, I was thinking if 19 Keys started a public school,
Mm,
what would be taught? Thinking about it. And the reason why I say public school is because public school does have some restrictions because it's
right.
public money. And we can get to the private school if you started a private school later. But if you started or was at the helm of the public school, what are some of the things that you would add to the curriculum that you feel a void right now?
I would think one of them would be mindset management, the art of thinking. The art of thinking would be the class that would affect all other classes, right? Because it directly goes into your processes and the way that you intake information and what you do with that information. It's 80% mindset, 20% skill set, right? So, the mindset that we have going into things and the way that we develop our thinking around things is directly correlation to the skill sets that we have in those areas, right? We have all the technology in the world, right? We don't need no more technology at this point. We got everything almost. So, what about the mindset on how you're going to go about using it or the mindset when it comes to thinking about self? right? Your own self-awareness. So I believe that philosophy is something that's largely missing in society. People don't have real philosophy anymore. They don't have concepts. And for me, philosophy is the art of thinking, right? Philosophers can often be future tellers or scientists unknown to them, right? They think of things and they get these thoughts and these pictures that come to mind before scientific advancement, right? Before it comes into play, because their thought was not to be accurate, right? It wasn't to be perfect. It wasn't to go through this scientific regimen and remember something. It was simply to think. And thinking takes you beyond what you know, right? So you start, when man developed atom before we had microscopes, right? We knew that there was star systems beyond before we had telescopes, right? We knew that there were cells in the body before we can actually go look at them, right? Because man was just thinking, right? And so I believe society has a void of thinking, and now we're just remembering. We're taking in data, statistics, facts, right? Information, but we don't have true knowledge because we don't have much experience with that data, statistics, and facts. So a student, right, they can learn to remember the data, statistics, facts, but what about the experience and what are you going to do with it? So for me, my thinking is always going into, okay, for everything I'm learning, how am I going to use it? How is it useful to me? We get in school and learn a lot of new information, but not always a lot of valuable information, right? And a lot of people are, introducing so much new information, but not really thinking about the correlation of value it has to that person, and especially customizable to that person's reality, right? What can this student learn that will be valuable for them? If you really go into my framework, there's two different frameworks, right? First, it goes into the E's. The E's are education, right? What you're taught, right? Your environment, where you're taught it, experience, right? What you do with what you're taught, right? Execution, the way you go about executing based on the knowledge that you have, right? Environment is stronger than nature. A child that has a bad environment, they're going to have a harder time being willful to be focused in that environment while learning. So doesn't mean that they're not as smart as that student that gets an A. It just means that the time that they have to manage their mindset plus manage schoolwork automatically degrades them. But they could be putting in the same amount of mental energy and faculties into managing both of these things, which means that they can be smarter, right? Or equal to the student that's getting the A. Because if they was able to put in the same amount of energy, if they had the same quality of life, then they will be getting the same output, right? So for me, it's about thinking and having the ability to manage oneself, because parents are a lot of times protecting their children from the world. And this is intuitive, but you need to be preparing your children for the world so you don't have to protect them from the world. So, rites of passage, right? How do you set them up so that they can believe that they can do it themselves, right? They don't need you. So, when something happened, they don't have this reset system to go back to mom and dad and start crying. They like, nope, something happened. It's okay. I can deal with this. So, that goes into psychological wholeness, right? The ability to network, the ability to process emotions, feelings, the ability to think, right? Communicate without being violent, the ability to actually go through that self producing process. So for me, developing great thinkers would be my super focus. Because when they go out and they pick up a tool, right? I'm gonna be like, all right, now, what are you gonna do with it? I'm not gonna teach you what to do with it. You tell me what you're gonna do with it. I told you how to use your mind already, right? We're going to help them develop visions and ideas, right? And then they have the ability to say, okay, you know what? He already taught me how to think. I don't even need to ask the question because now I know how to go research, right? The moment that you get a question, a lot of times people come with a crutch. Oh man, I'm gonna wait till I see my teacher to ask them. You holding on to this question the whole time. You got this smart ass phone in your hand, right? Not utilizing it to answer. A thinker, I'm about to go and answer. I don't need nobody. I'm about to go ahead and get this. Because you go to the step is what you don't know, you learn. Once you learn, you do. Once you get to a point in the step of the process, you don't know what to do, you learn again. Right? And then once you learn, you do. So great thinkers are the ones who run the world. So no, it ain't about you just you because even when you go approach science and English, what am I learning it for? How is this going to be valuable for me? And so that thinking class would be the one that will allow the students to advance in every other class.
Wow, you just laid a lot on us there. You really did, and it lot of thoughts circling in my head. Seth Godin. I don't know if you know Seth Godin. He's a
I heard the name.
yeah, business guy, marketing guy. He always speaks about what's the purpose of school,
Mm,
and he challenges schools to think about it. And one of the things he says is that there's two types of classroom. There's the classroom that the teacher takes out the Lego box, the Legos, and tells the kids to follow the instructions to make whatever the
hmm
instructions tells them. And then there's those teachers who take out the Lego box, dump all the Legos down, take away the instructions, and say, "What can you build?"
mm,
And that came to my mind as you were speaking, really. And so I just wanted to elevate that. And then I didn't know you were going to say a thinking class.
mm,
And the reason why in education is we have this thing called think time,
mm.
where we have to one of the best practices the teacher can do is to give young people think time. But oftentimes thinking is like 5 seconds,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
not
not thinking.
true think time,
Mm-mm.
really. And as I go in classrooms, it's funny. I always tell teachers the harder the question you ask, the more think time they need, and then they
Mm.
may need right time as well to really get their thoughts. But I see in a lot of classrooms because classrooms kind of run on a train schedule. So if I got 45 minutes to teach, I got to
Mm-hmm.
get through the
Right,
stuff.
right.
So the think time is actually minimized. So I appreciate you sharing that because I think that's a lesson for all of us in education to say think time is really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, just a class session could be just asking a question and then letting the students reflect over that question for the next 30 minutes, right? I think we think that there's this idea in teaching that you just got to constantly be hammering a student's mind, but that doesn't allow for thinking. It's the opposite of thinking, right? You're telling them what to do so they don't have to think,
Mm.
right? So
Wait, can you say that again? Because I think educators and as we write lesson plans, we really need to hear that.
when anytime we consume something, it's thinking for us, right? If you're watching a show, right, or you're listening to a teacher, they're doing the thinking, right? And then we're absorbing, right? We're reflecting on, not even having time to reflect on it. They're just giving us the information. We're not doing any thinking. They're
Right.
telling us what to think, right? So let's say you go in with a lesson plan that you do have, right? And you put a question mark up there first. You put whatever the question is, and you say, okay, this is day one of science. What do you think physics is? Right? Let them ponder over that first. Let them go through what over their processes of what they believe physics is first. Right? Then go about dispelling that because you don't even know what you need to tear down into the student first, right? Let them write. This is what I think math is. This is what I think. This is what I think it should be, right? Now you get to customize what each student needs in order to get to this arrived point. But if you just go in there with the general language, right? This is what it is. You don't really know the framework to tear down or to build up. So the questions allow you to be way more valuable, right? In the way that you're going about it. Because if you were teaching should be like tutoring essentially. Tutoring is a one-on-one session where it's a customized lesson plan to advance you in certain areas specifically, right? Tutoring wouldn't be a thing if teaching was the only thing that was necessary, right? So if you take it like a tutoring session, that's what I was telling the teachers is that AI allows you to customize some of these things. You get the student and everybody asks their questions and then you put the answers into AI. What does this mean for the student? What type of thinker is this student based on the way that they answered this question? So now you got a foul on all your students. So you're speaking to each student based on who they are, right? Not the way you want them to be. So now you're developing their mind. Oh, I know that he's a divergent thinker or a convergent thinker. I know they think picture, they think big, or this person is always thinking in detail, right? So, we go about processing every single person in the class has a different Myers-Briggs type, right? They're going to process information completely different than the next person. And if a person has a rare personality type, right, then they often have an ideal or concept that's not usually heard, right? So it may look like they're being rebellious or going against the flock, but it's just they are different, right? So a person that's a mathematical thinker versus a person that's an artist, they're going to have different ways they go about conceptualizing information and thinking about its point of reference, its usefulness to them. So I think you have to have that time where you're forcing this child to think because that time is developing the child's thinking
Mhm.
processes. So now you will end up doing less work as a student. I mean, as a teacher, right? but it'll end up being more work overall because you just developed this brilliant thinker.
Right. Appreciate that. I think one of the challenges as I go in the classroom, and it's important, and I want to highlight, oftentimes in teaching, we think when we teach something or we tell something and we get kids to think and they can't do it, we run to save them.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't let them live in what we call productive struggle.
Yeah.
And we're kind of saving them because we want them to get the answer so we feel good as a teacher. I taught it, they know it, therefore I'm good. And you're pushing us in a different direction and telling them to think and then figure out how they are thinking so we know how to attack them.
Right.
In terms of it, whether we have to break down some concept that they don't understand or we can build on something. So really appreciate that. As you were speaking, you did mention AI, really.
Yes, sir.
And so I want to get into that.
Yes, sir.
In terms of just because, you know, in education, especially K-12 education, when we talk about Black and brown children, STEM education, science, technology, engineering, mathematics become buzzwords. You know, we got to get more Black engineers, physicists. How do we've been grappling a long time in public K-12 urban education. How do we get more young people in these fields, computer science, things like that? And now we have AI emerge, really. And one of the things, there's a lot of companies out there that come into schools bringing robots and have kids working with technology. And I always say they're playing with someone else's genius. You bring me a robot and have a kid playing with it. That kid is playing with a robot that someone else created. So who has the genius? And I think that's synonymous to what you shared around when we're teaching, we're doing the thinking for them. When they're playing with someone else's technology, they're playing with someone else's genius. So I say all that to say AI is here now. And other technologies. In your opinion, how do we get our young people to really, and our teachers for that matter, to really embrace AI? Is this a bubble? Should we be moving this direction? And what are some good ways that we can get our educators and our students using this technology and new technologies in a way that pushes them to use their genius and not just play and tinker with the genius of others?
Yes, that's a really good question. So, you know, shout out to Marcus Garvey because he was the one that came up with that STEAM program: science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, right? And you got to add another A for the AI. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just got to look at AI as a whole nother field to teach. Same way you teach art, same way you teach mathematics, is teaching artificial intelligence, which is teaching disruptive technology, right? Because AI is going to disrupt and is disrupting every single field that there is known to man. Because what it's saying is, as a collection of these skill sets that normally people have to go get degrees for, and now you can manage the AI that has the ability to do, right? So that's a completely different thinking of going into a workforce, right? Thinking about what your skill is and the person hiring you based on your ability, right? Now your skill sets have to change. I don't need to hire an artist to get art. I need to hire somebody that can manage the AI to get the specific art that I need, right? That's completely different. But what does that require? It goes back to I need somebody that knows how to think, right? If you know how to think, then you can create a process, the way that you go about using AI, which is prompting, right? Trying to get the desired results, right, out of the AI. So let's say ChatGPT has a way where they just created, just launched today actually, where all of these different AIs are combined into one. So you can talk to it, you can upload a picture, right? You can have it make you pictures, you can have it make you graphs just by speaking to it. So now if you go into the students, there should be a whole project to see what that student can make with AI, right? Not telling them what to do, right? Maybe give them some framework and some context, maybe a goal set, right? That they may have. And then in a month's time, what have you done with that AI? You don't tell them anything what to do, right? So now you get to see, number one, what are their relative interests? Maybe one of the metrics is, you know, utilize AI to get you more followers, or utilize AI to create a business, right? Not a business plan, but a business, a real life business. Because now that student doesn't have to wait to be in college to get access to certain information. They got it all in AI. So now I'm going to the AI to teach me how to write a business plan, right? Then I might have an AI. I say, okay, AI, based on the way I'm asking these questions, throughout this whole time, can you assess what degree of intelligence that I have? So now the AI is assessing you while you're learning so that you can learn, right, what your process is. And then the AI can be like, if you'd have asked a question like this, I probably would have gave you this answer, right? So now you're developing this intangible relationship with AI. And it's the teacher's job to the student get to come back and reflect on the thing that they're doing in real time, right? So whether it's an art project, whether it's, and both things I think have to go in tangent. It's like teaching the skill set is not it's teaching the knowledge sets, right? So I need to less know about how to paint and I need to more know about all the different styles there are that I can paint in. So I can then reference that and tell the AI the different styles that I may want to combine. But if I don't know about all of the styles, I'm going to tell AI to do something and it's going to give me generic answer, right? Instead of me actually having the skill set to know how to do photography, right, or graphic design, I need to know about all of the different things that AI knows. So AI may know about color correction and it may know about, 4K or 8K. It may know about depth and width. I need to now know these knowledge sets, right? But I don't need to know the details. So we're literally going to a society where you have to know the high level, right? So if you have the high level on things, it's like, you can tell somebody to do something, but you don't actually know how to do it yourself. You know just enough to tell them. And the more you know about that field, the more you can tell that person to do. Because it's one thing being able to listen, I can't do it, but I can tell y'all to do it because I know you smart. Right now, you get in a person and say, I know you don't know it, but I know you smart enough to get the results out the AI to do it. Right. And so the teacher has to change their framework of teaching, right? To where you're basically teaching the student how to learn, right? And how to go about managing systems that are already learned, right? Because I don't need the skill set anymore. What do I need the skill set for? I need to manage the skill set now. So, like Dame Dash says, the world got to become bosses. The bosses are the ones who manage the skill sets that others learned, right? If you get somebody with multiple degrees, they can get paid more because they can do multiple things. The AI got all the degrees in the world.
Well, it brings me to what we speak about and what we speak about around the people who really move in business, or what we call, like, if you look at the letter T, T-shaped. They have a broad knowledge base, very broad knowledge base, and they have a deep skill set maybe in one thing that they're really deep in. And it sounds like with AI, understanding that you have to have a broad understanding or high level understanding of a lot of different things. And it seems like that deep, the vertical line is like how you prompt and how you use and train AI. So that just came to mind. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So some people are looking at this as like, maybe is this a bubble? Because we've seen in urban education, we've seen the NFT craze, right? And then we were telling all our teachers, get your kids to make NFTs because they can make a lot of money. And do we have to separate the technology from like a bad application of it, or
100%.
okay? Can you
Look
talk
at
about
let's NFTs is such an interesting idea. We had an event where we used Ticketmaster, right? When we want to change something on Ticketmaster, we have to ask them, right? It may take like a day, right? We want to get what was the final count of ticket sales. We have to wait for them to give us information. We are paying them to be a middleman for us, right? So that we can actually get sales. But the idea of NFTs was to cut out that whole process. I put it on my blockchain on my website. You go buy it. It's now in your wallet. You come here. I scan. It's authentified by the fact that it's on the blockchain. I let you in.
So wait. It wasn't to get little kids to make artwork to get rich.
No.
Oh, okay.
The problem with
Got
we
you.
live in a capitalist society, and we live in a FOMO society, the fear of missing out. So you see somebody making money off of it, so that's the way you're going to utilize it, right? So that's the whole thing of not thinking in society. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was looking at what other people were doing with it instead of what they could. Here's the thing: AI is going to be. NFTs are still going to be used because it's still the best use case to store information, especially in the world of AI. In the world of AI, there's a lot of fake, a lot of deep fakes, right? NFTs allow you to do authentication, right? And put it on the blockchain to store these systems in a world where, hacking and this AI hacking and security systems are going to be more at risk. People are going to have to move and aggregate all their data onto the blockchain, right? So people are going to want everything tokenized. Why would you keep these processes stored in these computers where they're not safe when you can put them onto a blockchain to where these things can be safe? Technologies are being utilized by governments when they say, okay, you want to have an ID where that ID can be stored on your phone. What do you think that ID is going to be? It's going to be blockchain technology, an SBT, to where that thing can only be given to you and then it can't be transferred to anybody else versus an NFT, right? It's a membership pass. The use case of it never failed.
Got it.
The markets bubbled. It's completely different. Nobody said the NFT use case was ever bad. The market of NFTs fell, but that was always something that we knew. Most of society didn't look at the warnings. Hey, 80% of projects go fail. Hey, 95% of them not going to work out. We look at business, 80% of businesses fail. It's a common sense knowing that 100% of people are not going to be successful at something. The question is, why did the 5% work out? Right? Why did the 5% work out? Why did this application and they team and they branding going to make millions and continue to make money to this day? Right? Why are companies utilizing blockchain technology and like luxury companies are now giving you cards? They don't tell you this. They're just adding on there because they know that they can combat the counterfeit market. You know what I mean? So how do we know your bag is real? They say you go through airport with fake bags and you can get in trouble and things of that nature now. Well, in the future, people be like, well, how the TSA not gonna care about that? Well, maybe one day they think your bag is fake and they say, okay, can you pull out the authentication card? They scan it, right? And it goes to the blockchain where it's registered. They say this is real. And then or they scan it, they be like, this don't register, this fake. Right? Currently, they can't do that. Right? So the NFT use case never died. If I wanted to have that as a ticket, it's still useful. What's the difference if I tell you hey, you want to come to my event and go buy this NFT ticket versus go buy one on the website? You want to come to the event, so you're going to utilize the NFT ticket. The only difference is I can embed information into your ticket and it can be useful for years to come. Right? So we have to get out, and this is why I talk about fast consumption. We consume things so fast without getting the true value. Right? We looked at the nature in which everybody was using it and said, okay, well, that use case didn't work out, so NFTs are crap. No, the technology is still raw. And the problem is that the people that it will benefit the most are the ones who believe the crap. The people who don't want to utilize the middleman and want to create these new processes to sell real estate. How did you think something was a brilliant idea 1 month? Right? But because a lot of people are not making money off of it, it's no longer a brilliant idea when that was no longer the use case in the first place. No, don't you want to sell your house? Put it as an NFT, sell that house, it's transferred into ownership. You cut out all of the issues and problems. That NFT can go into escrow. Once everything is solved on the blockchain, it's a transparent process that authenticates it and the transaction done. That to me is way better than the way we have things set up. We are living in a time where we operate through outdated processes when we have brand new technology that allow you more power, me more power. It democratizes ownership, right? And the thing is, who do you think would lobby? Who do you think would want these things to fail, right?
The middleman.
The middleman, the media, the music industry, right? All of these companies that benefit off this current infrastructure.
That built those systems.
Exactly. And then as AI become implemented, it's going to be easier to utilize these things because it's not going to be about NFT. It's going to be about the use of it. The problem is when things in such an infancy stage, you're describing the technology, right? Versus the use, right? So the internet, you don't talk about, the protocols behind the internet and things of that nature. Hey, do you use this firewall and all of this? No. You talk about, whether you can go and create an application or whether you can stream. What's the technology behind streaming, right? At one point in time, it probably bubbled because people was creating things that didn't matter. People were utilizing, .coms that were overvalued, but the internet never went away.
But the
those .coms bubbled,
right? Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if AI bubbled. Is the use case of AI still going to be valuable regardless if the market bubbles, right? The thing is, you only care about the AI bubble if your money is invested into AI. If your money is not invested, what does it matter? The use case is still there. I can still use AI to research, to develop, to create more efficient processes within my business, my teaching, my life. How could that bubble? It's the problem is we got people thinking in capitalistic terms, and the average person is not even invested. Most people that talk about NFT bubbles never bought an NFT, right? Never even used it. Still to this day couldn't tell you what it means and what they could do with it because they've never actually studied blockchain technology. And so that doesn't benefit the people at the bottom who can change the infrastructure at the top and gain more wealth by things being democratized. That benefits the people at the top creating certain belief systems into people and having them no longer believe, right, in these things so that they don't use them.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Last question, because I know your time is really
I'm
valuable.
enjoying myself.
If I'm an educator, urban education, black boy, I educate black boys, black girls, brown boys, brown girls, even students that have been counted out, no matter how they look, but it counted out. And we live in this new time, the 21st century. How should I speak to them? What advice should I give a young person that's growing up at really an amazing time to be alive, really? But I'm part of the counted out, the underclass, so to speak. If you were that teacher, how would you speak to that young person?
I would first start by talking about Hannibal Barker, David Clark, John Horse. Hannibal Barker was a military genius. You know, he was in his early 20s, right? Finishing a campaign that his father started to go against the Romans, right? In Carthage. And he fought those battles. He took wild elephants and he took them into harsh terrains. He developed the art of surprise, right? He was the only one that had the most successful campaign against the Romans, right? And I would teach them about that because oftentimes we're taught that our history starts in slavery. So you start off a victim. You start you start from the bottom. We're not starting there. We're starting off as heroes, right? Or Heru, right? So you have to start them from these places that already show them that even in the midst of great opposition, you can still have triumph. And this is the stock